The station, called Harmony's Edge, floated in the darkness of space like a jewel. It was massive, built by 17 different alien species, working together over many years. The structure gleamed with lights from 1,000 windows, and ships came and went like insects around a flower. This was the center of the Galactic Council, the place where all the civilized species met to talk and trade and keep peace across the stars. Inside the main docking bay, Ambassador Taman stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the aliens move about their business. He was tall for a human, with dark hair starting to show gray at the temples. His suit was simple and black, the kind diplomats wore back on Earth. Behind him, 4 other humans waited with their bags and equipment. They had traveled for 6 months to reach this place, and now that they were here, Taman felt the weight of representing his entire species. The welcoming committee approached slowly. The lead figure was Elith, a being made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through her body in patterns that the translator device said meant she was pleased. Next to her walked Vix, whose body resembled a praying mantis, but with 6 legs instead of 4. His shell was deep green, and his eyes were multifaceted like gems. Behind them came representatives from a dozen other species, all curious to see the newcomers. "Welcome to Harmony's Edge," Elith said, her voice coming through the translator as smooth and warm. "We are honored that humanity has joined us among the stars." Taman bowed slightly, the way he had practiced. "The honor is ours, Ambassador Elith. Humanity has dreamed of this day for generations." The alien delegation studied the humans with obvious interest. Taman could see them looking at his crew. There was Hana, the security officer, who stood straight and alert with her eyes constantly scanning the bay. Junho, their medical officer, smiled warmly at the aliens and seemed genuinely delighted by everything he saw. Dayun, the engineer, was already looking at the station's architecture with fascination. And Mingji, their cultural specialist, was recording everything with her small camera. "You are smaller than we expected," Vix clicked through his translator. "Your transmissions made you seem larger somehow." Junho laughed at that. "Cameras add 10 pounds, or so they say. We're just regular people." Another alien, this one looking like a flowing liquid held together in a clear suit, moved closer. "You have no natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armor on your skin. How did you survive on your world?" "We're smart," Hana said simply. "And we work together." Elith made a gesture that the translator said meant agreement. "Yes, we have observed this in your broadcasts. You are a social species. This is good. The Council values cooperation above all things." She turned to lead them deeper into the station. "Come, we have prepared quarters for you, and tomorrow the formal proceedings will begin." The humans followed the alien group through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were decorated with art from countless worlds. Some pieces Taman could understand, like sculptures and paintings. Others were completely alien, things that moved or sang or changed color as they passed. The floor beneath their feet adjusted to each species that walked on it, becoming softer or harder as needed. They passed other aliens in the corridors. Most stopped to stare at the humans. Some seemed friendly and curious. Others looked cautious. A few seemed dismissive, as if humans were just another minor species coming to beg for attention from the greater powers. "You must understand," Elith said as they walked, "that the Council has existed for over 300 years. In all that time, we have maintained complete peace among our member species. No wars, no conflicts beyond simple disagreements solved through discussion." "That's remarkable," Taman said honestly. "Humanity has not always been so peaceful with itself." "Yes, we know," Vix clicked. "Your history is ... violent. Your planet seems to have been a dangerous place. But that is behind you now. Here, among the civilized species, You will learn new ways. Minji glanced at Hana, and something passed between them. A look that Teeman noticed, but the aliens did not. He made a mental note to discuss it later. Their quarters were comfortable, designed to accommodate human needs. The aliens had done their research well. The rooms had proper beds, the right air mixture, even a small kitchen area with foods that humans could eat safely. The delegation spent the first evening settling in and discussing their impressions. They think we're harmless, Hana said, sitting on the edge of her bed and checking her small datapad. Did you see how they looked at us? Like we're pets. They're not wrong to think that, Juno said calmly. He was organizing his medical supplies in careful rows. Compared to them, we are physically weak. No natural weapons, like they said. We can't breathe different atmospheres or survive temperature extremes without help. Do-Yun looked up from his own work. But they also haven't noticed that we're predators. Did you see their eyes? Most of them have eyes on the sides of their heads. Prey animals. We have forward-facing eyes. Hunting eyes. They noticed, Teeman said quietly. Vix mentioned it in the briefing documents they sent us. But they dismissed it as an evolutionary accident. They can't imagine that a predator species could also be peaceful and diplomatic. Minji set down her camera. So we let them think what they want. We're here to make friends, not to scare anyone. If they feel safer thinking we're harmless, that's fine. Agreed, Teeman said. Our job is to integrate humanity into the galactic community. That means being patient, being friendly, and showing them that we can contribute positively. We're not here to prove anything about human strength or capabilities. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of meetings and ceremonies. The humans attended council sessions where various species presented their concerns and achievements. They visited cultural centers and learned about alien music, art, and philosophy. They shared human culture in return, showing films and playing music and teaching aliens about Earth's history. Slowly, the humans became familiar faces on Harmony's edge. Other species began to relax around them. Junho made friends with several alien medical officers, exchanging knowledge about different biological systems. Da-Yun impressed the engineering guild with his understanding of fusion technology. Minji organized a multicultural exhibition that brought together art from 24 worlds, including several pieces from Earth. Hana remained quietly in the background, doing her job as security officer. She memorized the station's layout, noted the positions of emergency exits, and observed how the alien security forces operated. They were ceremonial, she realized. They wore armor, but it was decorative. They carried weapons, but didn't practice with them. The entire station operated on the assumption that violence was impossible here. Teeman saw her concerns and shared them, but said nothing. They were guests here. They had no right to criticize how the council ran their own station. On the 21st day, Minji's exhibition opened in the Grand Hall near the diplomatic wing. Aliens from every species came to see it. There was music and food and celebration. Teeman stood with Elith, discussing the possibility of human colonies in neutral space. Junho showed a group of young aliens how to fold paper into shapes called origami. Do-Yun explained human architecture to a cluster of fascinated engineers. Everything was perfect. Everything was peaceful. And then the alarm started to sound. The sound was like nothing the humans had heard before. It started low and built into a wailing shriek that made the walls vibrate. Around the exhibition hall, aliens looked up in confusion. Many of them had never heard this sound in their entire lives. It was the station's emergency alarm, something installed generations ago and never used. Then the shooting started. Energy weapons, discharged in bright flashes of light. The main entrance to the hall exploded inward, sending fragments of decorative paneling across the floor. Through the smoke came figures in dark armor, carrying weapons that looked military grade. They were Sask, the reptilian species that resembled Earth's velociraptors, but standing upright. Their scales were red and black, and their eyes were cold. "Nobody move!" One of them shouted through a translator. "You are now hostages of the Burning Scale Collective. Resist and die." The hall erupted into chaos. Aliens screamed and ran in different directions. Some froze in place, unable to process what was happening. The Sask militants fired into the ceiling, bringing down lights and creating more panic. One of them grabbed a small crystalline alien child and held a weapon to its body. Timin was near the back of the hall with Elif when the attack began. His first instinct was to move toward the threat, but he forced himself to stay still. His eyes found his team. Junho was on the floor, covering a group of young aliens with his own body. Minji had disappeared behind an overturned display. Do-Yoon was pulling aliens toward a side exit, and Hannah was crouched behind a pillar, her hand instinctively reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. The terrorists moved through the hall with brutal efficiency. They separated the crowd into groups, forcing some aliens toward the exits and keeping others as hostages. One of them, larger than the rest with scars across his snout, seemed to be the leader. "I am Grask," he announced. "For 300 years, the Council has preached weakness and called it peace. Today, we show you the truth. Power is the only law that matters. Submit or die." Didn't hear the whispered conversation between Do-Yoon and a four-armed quiller named Thes. "Can you reach that panel?" Do-Yoon asked quietly in Korean. His translator was turned off. "I don't understand your words," Thes whispered back in their own language. Do-Yoon pointed carefully, trying to communicate without alerting the guard. Thes followed his gesture and saw the access panel he meant. The quiller's four arms made them excellent at multitasking. They nodded slowly. "When I distract him, open it. Then run," Do-Yoon said, still pointing. He made running gestures with his fingers. Thes understood. Do-Hyun stood up. The guard immediately pointed his weapon. "Sit down." "I need to use the bathroom," Do-Yoon said, gesturing to his stomach. "It's a human thing. We can't control it when we're stressed." The guard looked disgusted. "You are all weak." "Hold it. I really can't. Unless you want me to do it right here, which would smell very bad in this enclosed space." The guard made an annoyed clicking sound and gestured down the tunnel. "Fine, but if you try anything, I will kill one of the others. Understand?" Do-Yoon nodded and started walking. The guard followed, keeping his weapon trained on the engineer's back. As soon as they rounded the corner, Thes moved. Four arms working in perfect coordination, they opened the access panel, saw what was inside, and made a decision. In the main hall, Vrask was losing patience with Junho's speech. "Enough talking. Your species is weak. Your flesh is soft. You will kneel and obey, or you will die. Choose now." "That's the thing, though," Hannah said, her voice cutting through the tension. She was standing now, and every human in the hall could see what she was really doing. Positioning, measuring distances, calculating odds. "We're not that weak. We're just very, very good at pretending to be." Two things happened at once. In the maintenance tunnel, Do-Yoon spun and grabbed the guard's weapon. He was not stronger than the Sask militant. The reptilian alien was bigger, heavier, with muscle designed for combat. But Do-Yoon was not trying to overpower him. He was using leverage, angles, the guard's own momentum against him. The weapon clattered to the floor. The guard lashed out with his claws, catching Do-Yoon across the arm and drawing blood. But Do-Yoon had already grabbed a piece of broken pipe from the floor. He swung it like his ancestors had swung clubs, calculating impact force and trajectory with mathematical precision. The guard went down, unconscious but alive. In the main hall, The lights went out. The backup systems kicked in after 3 seconds, bathing everything in red emergency lighting. But 3 seconds is a long time when predators are in the dark. When the lights came back, one terrorist was on the ground, his weapon in Hana's hands. She had moved in complete silence, in total darkness, with the precision of a hunting cat. She fired once, not at the terrorists, but at the barricade blocking the main exit. The energy bolt blew it apart. "Everyone run!" She shouted to the hostages. Now, chaos erupted. Aliens scattered in every direction. The terrorists opened fire, but their shots went wild. They had expected helpless victims, not a coordinated escape. Vrask roared orders, trying to restore control. Tiemann moved during the confusion. He was not a soldier like Hana or an engineer like Do-Yun. He was a diplomat. But diplomats on Earth studied human history, and human history was full of violence. He knew where to strike to incapacitate. He knew how to use everyday objects as weapons. A decorative stand became a spear. A piece of broken sculpture became a bludgeon. He did not try to fight multiple enemies. He isolated one terrorist who had been separated from his group, and in the red lighting, with aliens screaming and running, he became something the Sask had never encountered. A human who had spent 20 years studying warfare through the lens of preventing it, and who understood violence precisely because he had devoted his life to avoiding it. The terrorist went down without firing a shot. Junho was moving too. He grabbed the young Quiller child who had been crying and ran for the exit, using his own body as a shield. Energy bolts sizzled past him. One hit him in the leg. He stumbled but kept running, kept protecting the child. His body pumping so much adrenaline that the pain was just distant noise. Minji appeared from nowhere with 3 aliens in tow, heading for a side exit that only she knew about because she had memorized the station layout for her exhibition. She was not a fighter, but she was fast and smart, and she knew when to run and when to hide. Vrask realized his perfect operation was falling apart. Seal the exits. Kill them all. But his soldiers were panicking. They had prepared to terrorize helpless civilians, not to hunt humans who moved like ghosts and fought like demons. One of them fired wildly and hit another by mistake. Another abandoned his position entirely and ran in the maintenance tunnel. Do-Yun had armed Thess and 3 other aliens with tools from the access panel. They were not weapons, but in their right hands, anything could be dangerous. He led them back toward the main hall, moving carefully, checking corners the way he had seen Hana do during their security drills that everyone thought were just formalities. They found 2 more terrorists in the corridor. The militants saw a human engineer and 4 aliens with improvised tools, and they laughed. They raised their weapons. They thought they were in control. They were wrong. Do-Yun did not wait for them to fire. He threw a heavy wrench with accuracy born from years of working with precision instruments. It hit the first terrorist in the head, dropping him instantly. Thess and the others rushed forward with their tools, and while they were not fighters, they were desperate and angry, and following the lead of someone who moved with absolute certainty. The second terrorist managed to fire once before he went down. The shot hit Do-Yun in the shoulder, spinning him around. He fell hard, blood spreading across his uniform. Thess caught him before he hit the floor. "Go," Do-Yun gasped in Korean, forgetting his translator was off. And in gestures, "Go, help others." Thess looked at the human who had armed them, who had shown them they could fight back, who was now bleeding from multiple wounds. "No, we carry you." And with 4 strong arms, Thess lifted Do-Yun and ran back in the main hall. Vrask had had enough. He activated the explosive charges his team had planted around the room. "If we cannot control the station, we will destroy it. Everyone dies." The timer showed 30 seconds. Hana saw it. She was near the main exit, making sure aliens escaped. She still had the stolen weapon. She could run. She could get out with the others. She could save herself. Instead, she turned and ran toward the bomb. 25 seconds. Elith, who had made it to safety, saw her run back. "No, what are you doing?" Hannah ignored her. She reached the explosive device and looked at it. She had basic demolition training from her military days, but this was alien technology. Different wiring, different mechanisms, different logic. 20 seconds. Her hands moved anyway. Human pattern recognition, trained through millions of years of evolution to solve problems, to see connections, to understand systems. She pulled off the casing and stared at circuitry that should have been completely foreign. 15 seconds. But it was not completely foreign. All bombs followed certain principles. Power source, detonator, payload. Interrupt the connection between them. And 10 seconds. She found the main power feed. It was protected, designed to prevent tampering. She had no tools. Just her hands and her will, and the absolute certainty that she was not going to let these terrorists kill everyone. 5 seconds. She grabbed the power feed with both hands and pulled. The casing cut into her palms. The wire would not budge. She planted her feet, ignoring her earlier injury, and pulled with every ounce of strength her adrenaline-flooded body could produce. 3 seconds. The wire came free. The timer stopped. Hannah collapsed next to the disabled bomb, her hands bleeding, her legs screaming in pain. Around her, the few remaining hostiles realized their ultimate weapon was gone, realized they were now trapped with humans who had stopped pretending to be harmless. Vrask looked at Hannah, at Junho standing despite his injuries, at Timin emerging from the shadows with unconscious terrorists behind him. He looked at his own soldiers, half of them down, the others terrified. "What are you?" He whispered. Hannah stood up slowly, painfully. Her pupils were still fully dilated, black pools in her eyes. "We're humans. We're diplomats and doctors and engineers. We're poets and teachers and explorers." She picked up the disabled bomb with her bleeding hands. "But when you threaten our friends, we're also the thing that killed every other apex predator on our planet." She dropped the bomb at his feet. "We're the thing that survived." The exhibition hall was a disaster. Broken displays lay scattered across the floor. Scorch marks from energy weapons decorated the walls. The carefully curated art from 24 worlds was destroyed. And in the center of it all stood 5 humans, bleeding and exhausted, surrounded by unconscious or fleeing terrorists. Vrask backed away slowly. His weapon was still in his hand, but his claws trembled. Around him, his remaining soldiers looked to him for orders. They had come here expecting an easy victory, a statement that would shake the foundations of the Council. Instead, they had found something they could not understand. "This is impossible," Vrask said, his translator struggling with the emotion in his voice. "Your species is weak. Your bodies are fragile. You have no natural weapons. We studied you. We know what you are." Timin stepped forward, straightening his torn and bloodied suit. His diplomatic mask was gone, but his voice remained steady. "You studied our broadcasts, our entertainment, our public face. You saw what we wanted you to see, what we wanted everyone to see." He gestured around the hall. "But you didn't study our history. If you had, you would have learned something important." "What?" Vrask demanded. "That humans are very good at learning from our mistakes. For thousands of years, we fought each other. Wars over territory, resources, beliefs, pride. We nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times. We created weapons that could end all life on our planet. And we were very close to using them." Junho had his arm around the young Quiller he had saved. Blood still dripped from his broken nose and his leg wound, but he stood steady. So we made a choice. We decided to be better. We built institutions to resolve conflicts peacefully. We created laws to protect the weak. We developed philosophies about the value of life. We became civilized. But here's the critical part, Hannah added, her voice rough with pain and exertion. We did not become weak. We became disciplined. We did not lose our ability to fight. We learned when not to fight. That's not the same thing. Minji had returned from securing the side exits. She had a nasty bruise on her forehead, but was otherwise intact. On Earth, we have a martial art called Judo. It means gentle way. The principle is to use an opponent's force against them. To win without needing to be stronger. That's what we tried to do here. We wanted to join your council peacefully. We wanted to contribute positively. We wanted to be your friends. But you chose violence instead, Do-yeon said, being helped into the hall by Fess. His shoulder and arm were wrapped in makeshift bandages, already soaked through with blood. But his eyes were clear. You chose to threaten innocent people, to kill diplomats, to use terror as a tool. You forced us to respond. The sound of boots echoed in the corridor. The station's security forces were finally arriving, along with council members who had been in protected areas. They stopped at the entrance to the hall, staring at the scene in shock. Elif pushed through the crowd. Her crystalline body was cracked in several places from the stress of what she had witnessed. The humans. They saved us. All of us. They fought when we could not. They stopped the bomb. They gave us time to escape. A Kresh council member, his insect body clicking with agitation, looked at the disabled explosive device. This was designed to destroy 3 sections of the station. Thousands would have died. How did you disarm it? Hannah held up her bleeding hands. I pulled really hard. The security forces moved to restrain Vrask and his remaining soldiers. The terrorists did not resist. They were defeated, not just physically, but mentally. Their entire worldview had been shattered. They had believed in the supremacy of strength, in the weakness of peaceful species, in the inevitability of their victory. They had been wrong about everything. As they were led away, Vrask looked back at the humans one last time. Why did you disable the bomb? You could have escaped. You were fast enough, strong enough. You could have saved yourselves and let the rest of us die. Teeman met his eyes steadily. Because that's not who we are. We came here to protect life, not to abandon it. You mistook restraint for weakness. You mistook civilization for fragility. Those are very different things. The next hours were a blur of medical treatment and debriefing. Alien doctors worked on the humans with hesitant efficiency. They had studied human physiology in theory, but had never treated actual human wounds. Chun-Ho, despite his own injuries, helped guide them. The bullet energy bolt went clean through. He told the doctor treating his leg. No major arteries hit. I was lucky. The bone might be fractured, though. You'll want to scan it. The doctor, a liquid being whose name translated as whisper, flowed around the wound, examining it. You ran on this, with a child in your arms. How? Adrenaline. I told you about it earlier. My body is still full of it. I'll crash in about an hour and feel all of this pain properly. But right now, the chemical is keeping me functional. This is a combat adaptation, Whisper said with something like awe. Your species developed this to keep fighting even when injured. This is ... efficient and terrifying. In another medical bay, Hana was getting her hands bandaged. The cuts were deep from the wire she had ripped free. The doctor working on her, a small furred being named Pip, kept making distressed noises. These will scar, Pip said. I am sorry. Our regeneration technology does not work well with human tissue yet. That's okay, Hana said. Scars are fine. They remind us of important moments. How can you be so calm? You almost died. Several times. And you ran toward a bomb instead of away from it. Hannah looked at her bandaged hands. I had training. Military training before I became a security officer. They teach you to run toward danger when lives are at stake. It's hard to explain. You just do it. You don't think about yourself. You think about everyone else. Pip's fur rippled in a way that indicated confusion. This is illogical. Your survival instinct should make you flee, not approach danger. Maybe. But humans have another instinct that's even stronger. We protect our pack, our tribe, our people. Even if those people are aliens we just met 3 weeks ago. In a third medical bay, Il-yun was being scanned for internal damage. The shoulder wound was serious, but not life-threatening. The arm wound would require surgery. He had also cracked 2 ribs at some point, though he could not remember when. You fought multiple armed enemies with improvised weapons, his doctor said. It was a Vryn, though not one of the ones who had been killed. Its crystalline voice resonated with something that might have been respect. You armed others and led them in resistance. Yet your file says you are an engineer, not a warrior. Engineers solve problems, Do-yeon said simply. The problem was armed terrorists. The solution was to remove their advantage. They had weapons, so we had to take those away or neutralize them. They had numbers, so we had to use the environment and tactics to balance that. It's just math. You speak of combat as if it is an equation. Isn't it? Force times acceleration equals mass. Leverage amplifies strength. Surprise creates opportunity. These are all just principles. Understanding them is my job. The doctor was quiet for a moment. I am beginning to understand why your species survived your violent world. You think about violence the way we think about art or philosophy. You have studied it, mastered it, and then chosen not to use it unless necessary. Exactly, Do-yeon agreed. Anyone can be violent. It takes no skill to hurt someone weaker than you. But to have the ability to cause harm and choose not to? That takes discipline. That takes civilization. That's what we've been trying to show you. Minji was mostly unhurt physically, but she was being evaluated by a psychological specialist. The being, whose name was impossible for humans to pronounce and went by Sorrow in translation, was concerned about trauma. You witnessed terrible violence, Sorrow said gently. You saw people die. You were in mortal danger. Most beings would need significant time to process this. I'll probably need therapy when I get home, Minji admitted. This isn't something you just shake off. But right now, I'm okay. I kept busy. I helped people escape. I focused on the practical aspects. The emotional processing will come later. This delayed reaction is also a combat adaptation? Sort of. In crisis, humans can compartmentalize. We put our emotions in a box and deal with them later when it's safe. It's not healthy long-term, but short-term, it keeps us functional. Tieman's injuries were minor cuts and bruises mostly, but he was in the longest debriefing. The entire council had assembled to hear his report. They sat in their various forms around the grand chamber, all of them still processing what had happened. Let me be clear, Tiemann said, standing before them despite his exhaustion. We did not want this. We came here for peace. We wanted to join your community as equals and friends. Everything that happened today was a response to an attack we neither wanted nor started. But you were so effective, Vix clicked nervously. 5 humans against 20 armed terrorists. You won decisively. You saved hundreds of lives. You stopped a bomb designed by experts. How is this possible for a species that claims to value peace? Tiemann took a deep breath. Because we know what peace costs. We know what it means to fail at peace. We know what happens when civilization breaks down and violence takes over. We've lived through it, survived it, and learned from it. So when we say we value peace, we mean it. And when someone threatens that peace, we know exactly how to defend it. Another council member, representing a species of floating energy beings, spoke up. But your capacity for violence, your adaptation for combat, your instincts for hunting and killing, these are dangerous traits. How can we trust that you will not use these against us? You can't, Tiemann said honestly. Not with complete certainty. Trust is always a risk. But consider this. Today, when we had every reason to respond with maximum force, when we had been attacked and injured, and could have justified any level of violence, we still showed restraint. We incapacitated when we could have killed. We protected when we could have fled. We saved even our enemies when we could have let them die. That's not weakness. That's choice. And that choice is what defines us. Elith spoke up, her cracked body reflecting the lights in broken patterns. I watched them. I saw Hannah's eyes go dark, saw her posture change, saw her become something I can barely describe. I felt fear like I have never felt before. But then I watched her use that capability, not for revenge or rage, but to save us. All of us, even those who had attacked her. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, the eldest council member, a being older than most civilizations, spoke. The galaxy has been at peace for 300 years. We thought we had evolved beyond violence. We thought that any species capable of space travel would have transcended such primitive behaviors. Today we learned that we were living in a peaceful bubble, and that outside that bubble, there are still those who would destroy us. We were helpless. But humans were not. What are you proposing? Another member asked. That we need to remember what we forgot. That peace is not inevitable. That it must be defended. And that perhaps we need those who remember how to defend it. The vote took place 3 days after the attack. The humans spent that time recovering in the medical wing, giving statements, and trying to process everything that had happened. They were treated differently now. Aliens who had seen them as harmless curiosities before now gave them space in the corridors. Some looked at them with fear, others with respect. Some with both. Junho was sitting up in his medical bed when Whisper came to check on him. The liquid doctor flowed around his leg wound, examining the healing process. Remarkable. Human tissue regenerates slower than most species, but the wound is clean. No infection. Your immune system is aggressive. Too aggressive sometimes, Junho said with a slight smile. We get autoimmune diseases where our bodies attack themselves. It's the price of having such an intense defense system. Everything about humans is a bit too much. Too much adrenaline. Too much immune response. Too much fight or flight reaction. We evolved in an environment that required excess in order to survive. I have been reading about your planet, Whisper admitted. The predators that existed there. The diseases. The climate extremes. By our standards, Earth is a death world. How did you become the dominant species? Persistence and cooperation. Humans are not the fastest or strongest, but we can keep going. We can run for days if we need to. We can coordinate in groups. We can communicate complex ideas. We can throw objects with accuracy. We can use tools. Alone, any human would die. Together, we conquered the planet. Whisper was quiet for a moment. I watched you protect that child. You put yourself between it and the weapons. You ran on a broken leg. You never considered leaving it behind. Of course not, Junho said simply. It was a child. But it was not your child. Not even your species. You had no biological imperative to protect it. Junho looked at the doctor with genuine confusion. Does that matter? It was small and scared and in danger. What else was I supposed to do? It was Whisper's turn to be confused. This is not logical. You risked your life for a being with no relation to you, no benefit to your survival, no advantage to your genes passing on. Logic isn't everything, Junho said softly. Humans learned that a long time ago. Yes, we evolved to protect our own children, our own tribe. But somewhere along the way, we expanded the definition of our tribe to include everyone. Every human. And now, apparently, every alien too. It's not logical. It's just ... right. In another room, Hannah was doing physical therapy on her leg. The wound had healed enough for her to walk, though she still limped. Pip, a small furred doctor, watched her with concern. You push yourself too hard. You need rest. I've rested for 3 days, Hannah said, gritting her teeth as she took another step. That's enough. I need to be functional when the vote happens. Why? You are not voting. You are not even allowed in the chamber during deliberations. Hannah paused, leaning on the support bar. Because this vote decides humanity's future in the galaxy. If the Council votes to accept us fully, we become part of something bigger than ourselves. If they vote against us, we go back to being alone in the universe. I need to be ready for either outcome. You believe they will vote against you? After you save them? Fear is powerful, Hannah said. We scared them. Badly. Some of them might decide that grateful is not the same as comfortable. They might think we're too dangerous to have around. I wouldn't blame them. Pip's fur rippled thoughtfully. But you would be disappointed. Yes, we came here with hope. We wanted to be part of a community of peaceful species. We wanted to learn from beings who had achieved what we're still struggling with. 300 years of peace. Can you imagine? Earth can barely manage 300 days sometimes. And yet, you are the ones who protected that peace when it was threatened. Hannah smiled sadly. Ironic, isn't it? Do-hyun was out of bed and walking the corridors with Thess. The Quiller had visited him every day since the attack, bringing food and news and companionship. They walked slowly to accommodate Do-hyun's healing shoulder. My people are calling you a hero, Thess said with their translator device. You gave us weapons. You showed us we could fight back. Before you, we were frozen with fear. After you, we remembered we had strength. You always had strength, Do-hyun said. I just reminded you of it. And they were not weapons, just tools. You did the brave part. The Council is debating what humans are. Whether you are dangerous or protective. Whether your capacity for violence makes you a threat or a shield. Do-hyun stopped walking and looked at his alien friend. What do you think? Thess considered this with all 4 arms folded in a gesture that meant deep thought. I think you are both. I think that is what makes you valuable. You understand violence so well that you can prevent it. You know how to hurt, so you know how to defend. You have walked through darkness, so you can guide others away from it. That's very poetic. My species values poetry. But I am also being practical. The Burning Scale Collective attacked because they thought we were weak. They were right. We have lived in peace so long that we forgot how to protect ourselves. If humans join the Council, we will not forget again. You will teach us. Not to be violent, but to remember that peace has a price. In the Council chamber, the debate had been going on for hours. Some members argued passionately for accepting humanity fully. Others urged caution. The humans waited in an adjacent room, listening to the translation of the proceedings. This is torture, Minji muttered. Just vote already. Timin sat calmly, though his hands were clasped tightly together. They need to work through this. We challenged their entire worldview in a single day. That takes time to process. Do you think we'll be accepted? Minji asked. Honestly? I don't know. We did everything right tactically. We saved lives. We showed restraint. We protected even our enemies. But we also revealed something about humanity that they find frightening. That we can switch from peaceful to dangerous in seconds. That we carry violence inside us like a tool we can take out when needed. Some species might never be comfortable with that. The door opened and Elith entered. Her crystalline body had been repaired, the cracks mended with some kind of resin that made her look like broken pottery put back together. They are ready to vote. The humans stood and followed her into the chamber. The council members were arranged in their traditional formation, representing all 17 species. 18, if the vote went the right way. The eldest member spoke, their translated voice ancient and heavy with significance. Humanity. You came to us seeking membership in our community. You presented yourself as a peaceful species seeking to join peaceful neighbors. Then violence came, and we saw another side of you. A side that some of us find troubling. Timon's heart sank. This was sounding like a rejection. However, the elder continued, we also saw something else. We saw courage, compassion, sacrifice. We saw beings who could have saved themselves, but chose to save others. We saw restraint in the midst of capability. We saw the choice to protect rather than to punish. Hope flickered. The question before us is not whether humans are capable of violence. Today proved that you are, perhaps more efficiently than any species we have encountered. The question is whether you will use that capability wisely, whether you can be trusted with such power. The elder paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. We have deliberated. We have argued. We have examined every aspect of human history and behavior, and we have come to a decision. But before we announce it, we must ask you something. Ambassador Taman, Security Officer Hana, Medical Officer Junho, Engineer Do-Yun, Cultural Liaison Minji, if we accept you, if we give you a place among us, what will you do with it? Timin stepped forward. We will do what we came here to do. Learn from you. Share with you. Grow with you. We will contribute our knowledge and our skills to the community. We will protect our friends when they are threatened. We will speak honestly, even when the truth is uncomfortable. We will try, every day, to be worthy of the trust you place in us. And your capacity for violence? Your combat adaptations? Your predatory instincts? We will use them only in defense, only to protect, only when peace fails and lives are at stake. We will teach those who want to learn so that others can defend themselves. We will remember violence so that others can forget it. We will carry the burden of being capable of harm so that we never forget why we choose not to. The elder was silent for a long moment. Then they gestured to the other council members. We vote now. Those in favor of full membership for humanity indicate. Lights appeared throughout the chamber. Not all of them, but more than half. Enough. The vote carries, the elder said. Humanity is accepted as the 18th member of the Galactic Council. Welcome, friends. Welcome, protectors. Welcome, humans. The chamber erupted in various forms of applause. Clicking, chiming, humming, and sounds the humans had no names for. Elith approached them, her repaired body glowing warmly. I was terrified of you, she said honestly. When I saw your eyes go dark, when I felt that ancient fear, I wanted to run and never stop. But then I watched what you did with that fear you inspired. You used it to save us. So now I choose to trust you. I hope I am not wrong. You're not wrong, Hana said softly. We'll prove it. Every day. In the following weeks, things changed on Harmony's Edge. The Council created a new division called the Protective Services, and humans were asked to lead it. Not to be warriors or soldiers, but to be teachers. To train the station's security forces in tactics and strategy. To develop protocols for responding to threats. To remember violence so others could maintain peace. UNHO established a medical training program, teaching alien doctors about treating injuries in combat situations. Not because he wanted combat, but because preparedness saved lives. Doyon worked with the Engineering Guild to design better security systems, safer escape routes, and more resilient infrastructure. Not to create a fortress, but to create safety. Minji restarted her cultural exhibition, this time including human martial arts and warrior traditions, alongside human art and poetry. Not to glorify violence, but to show the full spectrum of human experience. Hana trained the security forces personally. She taught them about tactics, awareness, and response. But more importantly, she taught them about restraint. About choosing when to act and when to hold back. About the responsibility that came with capability. And Tiemann continued his diplomatic work, meeting with species across the galaxy, explaining humanity's philosophy. That violence was a tool, not an identity. That capacity did not equal desire. That the choice to be peaceful was more meaningful when you could choose otherwise. The Burning Scale Collective went to trial. Surprisingly, the humans asked to speak on their behalf, not to excuse their actions, but to advocate for rehabilitation rather than punishment, to show that even those who had harmed them deserved the chance to change. Some council members found this incomprehensible. Others found it inspiring. The terrorists themselves were confused, asking why humans would show mercy to enemies. Because we've been where you are, Junho told them during the trial. Humans spent thousands of years believing that strength and violence were the path to greatness. We were wrong. We learned. Now we're giving you the same chance we gave ourselves. The chance to be better. Months passed. The station returned to normal, though normal now included humans training aliens in self-defense and tactical thinking. The galaxy slowly adjusted to the presence of this new species that confused and fascinated them in equal measure. One day, Hana was supervising a training exercise when a young Vryn student approached her nervously. "Officer Hana, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "That day, during the attack, when your pupils dilated and you changed, what was that like? What were you feeling?" Hana thought about it carefully. Fear, mostly. Fear that I would fail to protect everyone. Fear that I wasn't fast enough, or smart enough, or strong enough. But also clarity. Everything became very simple. There were people who needed protecting and threats that needed stopping. No complexity. No ambiguity. Just action. But you also felt satisfaction? Pleasure in the combat? Hana met the student's eyes steadily. Yes, that's the dark truth humans carry. Fighting triggers reward chemicals in our brain. We evolved to feel good about surviving conflicts. It's a trap. The satisfaction can make you seek conflict instead of avoiding it. That's why discipline is so important. Why choice matters. I felt satisfaction in protecting people, not in hurting enemies. That distinction is everything. The student seemed to understand. You teach us not just to fight, but when not to fight. Exactly. Anyone can throw a punch. Learning when to keep your hands down, that's the hard part. That's the human part. Back on Earth, news of humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Council had caused celebration. Humans were finally part of a larger community. But the coverage also included footage of the attack, of humans fighting, of the transformation that had scared so many aliens. Some people worried that Earth had been represented as too violent, too dangerous. Others argued that humanity had shown exactly who they were: protectors and peacemakers who could back up their ideals with action when necessary. In his quarters on the station, Teeman recorded a message to send home. To everyone watching this back on Earth, I know the footage is concerning. I know seeing us fight is not the first impression we wanted to make. But I hope you understand what really happened here. We came for peace and found violence. We responded with exactly enough force to protect the innocent, and no more. We showed the galaxy not just that humans can fight, but that we choose when to fight and why. That choice is what defines us. Not our capacity for violence, but our restraint. Not our ability to hurt, but our decision to protect. We are not warriors pretending to be diplomats. We are diplomats who remember how to be warriors when necessary. And that is exactly who humanity has always been. He ended the recording and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there were countless species, countless cultures, countless opportunities for humanity to learn and grow and contribute. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be more challenges, more threats, more moments when humans would have to choose between peace and protection. But for now, humanity had a place among the stars. Not as the strongest species, not as the most advanced, but as the species that understood violence deeply enough to choose peace. As the species that carried the burden of being capable of terrible things, precisely so they could prevent those terrible things from happening to others. In the medical bay, Chun Ho checked his leg one last time. Almost healed. He smiled at his reflection. We walked softly, he said to himself in Korean. But we carried a big stick. And we used it exactly right. The galaxy would never forget the day humans revealed their true nature. The day peaceful diplomats became dangerous protectors. The day soft-spoken primates from a death world showed that evolution had made them perfect survivors, and choice had made them perfect peacekeepers. And deep in their evolutionary memory, every species that had been in that exhibition hall would carry a new instinct, a new understanding, that humans were friends, allies, protectors, but also that human pupils dilating in the presence of blood meant something ancient and terrifying was waking up. Something that had survived countless predators, outlasted ice ages, overcome diseases and disasters, and everything a cruel planet could throw at it. It meant a predator was protecting its pack, and there was nothing in the galaxy more dangerous or more devoted than that.